Today's witch word of the day is Ki. This actually comes from Dragon Ball Z, Kevin. Dragon Ball Z.
Could you say that one more time?
Ki. It's like ki, like your energy ki.
Okay.
Ki, and then you add on the letters AI. So K-I-A-I. Ki.
Okay. All right.
So this is the idea of manipulating air currents around you to produce powerful shockwaves in order to strike your opponent. So it's almost like an invisible force that can manipulate other things around them.
You haven't even read that?
Wait, what are you doing with the book?
So he has the confidence to finish the story.
Hear now the words of the witches.
This is Kevin, and welcome to Words of the Witches, the Charmed podcast that will guide you through the lesser-known published material in the Charmed universe and decide how it fits into the grand narrative of the TV series.
What is going on, everybody? My name is Victor Webster. I played Coop on Charmed. I was talking with Kevin recently about his podcast, Words of the Witches, and he was telling me all about the intricacies of the show, and I had to check it out. And it is really, really interesting. It's really good. If you're into Charmed, and especially the published lore of Charmed, this is the place to go to get all of your information. It's very informative. He's a great host, and Kevin really loves digging deep into the published lore of Charmed. So if you're a fan of Charmed, go check it out. You won't be disappointed. Take care.
So welcome to Words of the Witches. I am Kevin, your resident Charmed resource.
And I'm Sean, and I just love comic books.
And we have another returning guest, the person who's returned the most times ever. It's Brittany. Hi!
Well, outside of Sean.
Outside of Sean, yeah.
He's a permanent resident now, but outside of Sean.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me back. I'm very excited.
Of course. Do you remember which novels you came on for before?
The first one was, Kiss of Death.
Kiss of Darkness, book 2.
Yeah, that one. The second one, the one about, it was like Date with something.
Death. That was Date with Death. Yeah.
There's so many titles to these damn books. And then the third one was the one before Pied Piper, because I accidentally read Pied Piper.
I remember that.
And then had to go back and reread the one before that.
You know, it was actually A Tale of Two Pipers, which is fitting for what we had last week.
That's funny.
I remember somewhat.
Yeah, we're at episode 62 of the podcast right now.
Isn't that crazy? Like,
yeah.
I remember filming that first, it was the second episode, but my first episode with you, and now it's just progressed so much.
Yeah, and you have been doing so much too. I mean, all of your TikTok is very popular. Your Instagram is picking up. You're making so many great Charmed stuff. I love looking at your collection right now. It's amazing.
Thanks. Thank you.
I would say it's complete.
Yeah, trust me, you would think that, but I have a never-ending list of shit that I want to add. So
see,
it's a disease. It really is.
See, Sean, I'm not the only one. There are others like us, like me.
Thanks for answering that for me. I was wondering.
Don't worry. He's not the only crazy one out there.
Yeah.
He's in good company.
I've heard your podcast enough to know there's a bunch of crazies out there. People love Charmed.
That's why it's so great, because we know we're not the only crazy. There's a community out there that's just for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Kevin's bringing the crazies together.
I am. Oh my god. No, because before the internet, we were just all alone in our own little bubbles. We didn't know how many people there were that were just as obsessed and fascinated like us. So it's like, yay! Now we're doing it. Yeah. So before we get started with the comic, I do have some poll results from last week's question. And this was more popular than I thought it would be. I asked if anybody had other names for our Piper's Restaurant than what, if they would like to see any other names in the running. And I kind of liked Hallowell's. I thought Hallowell's was a good name for it. And, it's hard to improve on that, but it's kind of cool to see what other people thought. So I'll start with the Spotify one first. We had one response on Spotify. It says, from CX Hayes 11, Pepper. Simple, yet simple yet stays true. Plus, there's 3 P's.
Pepper. Just Pepper.
That's her drag name, like not her restaurant name.
Pepper with 3 P's.
Brings a new meaning to P3, right?
Yeah. On Instagram, we had Instadenials say the attic. Charmed France, the power of 4. Charmed Draws, the familiar chef. She's a familiar chef.
Okay.
Soriano Eric just says, Hallowell's, it's perfect.
Just leave it alone.
Yeah. And Boy 92 says, Sisters 3. There's actually is a 3 Sisters soup you could make.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, we make it at my work all the time.
It's probably not a Southern thing. That's probably why I haven't heard of it.
Probably, yeah. And then Paul from Power of X-Men said, I thought Hallowell's was good.
Oh, Paul.
And Twitter, we actually had the most responses. I don't know. Twitter just took off with it. People were giving multiple answers in the question.
Wow.
So Isaiah Caston said, Piper's anti-Quake with an intact sign of Quake. I'm like, oh.
Okay.
The Nexus or just Nexus, Sleepy Hallowell's, or the Pied Piper. So fun.
Sleepy Hollowell's. But I wouldn't think like, oh, I'm gonna have a good meal at Sleepy Hollowell's.
No,
I'm gonna spend the night.
Yeah, this is my bed and breakfast over here.
Yeah.
Maybe that's her next venture. And like season 11, she opens up a bed and breakfast.
Right.
Sleepy Hollowell's.
Yeah, when she's starting to get a little bit older, she's like, okay, now I'm gonna retire with my bed and breakfast.
Exactly.
Bernard, who is on the Leo Rising episode, says, I quite like it as it doesn't need a pun in its title, therefore it's a bit more upmarket establishment. Yeah, like I thought. I thought it sounds very classy, Hallowell's does. So he does give a spoiler here, which I'm not going to say, about the menus. But he likes that thing that they do with the menus.
I get it.
Mm-hmm. Jared Draper says Triquetra, Pruse, Excalibur, since she's basically Lady of the Lake.
Listen, if they did it as Pruse, I think I would cry every time.
I know.
Any mention of Prue, I'm just like, oh my
I know.
God.
Well, spoiler, that's what the menu has to do with, so.
Yeah.
Oh.
Matt DeLuise says P4. It's the next step up.
What happened to P1 and P2?
We don't talk about that.
It's like one time I convinced my boss that he had to watch Big Hero 1 through 5 before he watched Big Hero 6.
I love that. It's such a great movie.
It's so good. Yay, Disney. We always got to get that Disney reference, so thank you, Sean.
Yeah, yo.
Mirko Dick Consultant says Prudence, Melinda's, Quake 2.0.
That is such a long name. I don't think that would work.
Well, I think they're separate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I got it. I was like, there would be no way I would remember the name of that restaurant. Right. I can barely remember like what I did yesterday.
Right.
Got it.
Fudgy Golly says Piper.
Just Piper.
Just Piper. Has a good ring to it.
Just Piper. But it only has 2 P's.
Yeah, right? See?
You go back to her drag name. Pepper.
Pepper. Just Pepper. Keeks and Armor says the Source Bar and Grill. Fire everywhere.
That's triggering on so many levels.
Why do so many demons come here?
Yeah.
I thought it was a restaurant for us.
I know. Really?
The Source. We're trying to find ours.
Yeah.
We're almost done. Lee Jack Allen says the Magic Kitchen. Christian Machucci, I like this one. I think it says the Power of Food. I kind of like that.
Yep.
It's cute as like a fan thing, but like imagine you going out to a restaurant and just being like the power of food. You'd be like, where did they come?
I know,
that?
right?
You know? It's a cute little play on for the family.
Sure, right.
It sounds like a health food store.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Coach Coochie.
Stop it.
His name's, that's her name. Coach Coochie says Popeyes.
I think that was already taken.
Oh, this is the last one. Chan says the Charmed Bar and Grill or Cafe. Good times.
Yeah.
I like Popeyes.
I'm a couple episodes behind, but I don't know if you mentioned it in the previous podcast where you asked that question. But what I find so interesting that, in the comics we have Piper, and I mean at the end of season 8 we see that she's opening up a restaurant or whatever. It says that she's opening up a restaurant, and that is her like ending story. Like that is her next career move. Did you mention that Holly is also going into the restaurant business?
We did. When did we do that? It was not last episode, but it was a few episodes before that.
Okay.
I
find the parallels so interesting.
It's so funny. Yeah.
I wish that, she would have like played on, maybe called that Hallowells or something.
I know, right?
Yeah. That would have sold so well.
Oh, I know.
Charmed Cafe,
Yeah.
Yeah. She could have marketed that up big, but I find that so interesting, especially because in season 1, obviously she's playing like a chef, and that wasn't really Holly's like demeanor.
Yeah.
She wasn't interested in that kind of stuff. But then as time progressed, obviously Piper's personality came more closely with Holly's, and then developed into, well, she's going to open up a restaurant, and now Holly's. It's fascinating.
And it was always so crazy too, because when Piper was having kids, she was having boys. Like, what is happening? This is like,
I know.
Like she is Piper, right?
Does she really have those powers? She'd be blowing up a ton of people,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Get those reboot sisters out of here. Goodbye.
I wouldn't blame her.
No. But anyway, silence. Here now, the words of the witches. We're gonna get into this comic. This is called Cupid's Harrow. It is season 9, issue 14, published September 28th, 2011. Written by Paul Ruditis, art by Dean Katz, coloring by Michael Spicier. I think it's French, Spicier, or maybe it's a Spicer, whatever. And then letters by Jim Campbell, editors by Ralph Tedesco and Paul Ruditis.
I love this cover.
I love this one too. This is so good.
It makes me so happy. I'm not a big Cole fan anyway, but not that I hate him, okay? But we can get into that at some point during the thing. But I just love the entire setup of this. It's just so looming. It's beautiful.
I kind of picked you for this issue on purpose because I know how much of a non-Cole person you are and how much of a Coop person you are. So I thought it would be perfect to hear your take.
Oh my god, I feel a kinship to Brittany because, I don't love Cole either.
We're going to be besties.
We already are.
Long lost friends.
The other one it should be in the back of my volume, this one.
Yeah, I would have been fine if they would have just done the one. I don't like that.
Yeah. So let me talk about the first cover here first. This is by David Seidman. It's got Cole in the background, ripping up a picture of Phoebe and Coop. Ooh, chills. It's chilling. And this is actually, this picture he's ripping is very much representative, or drawn from a promo picture of Engaged and Confused. Of them too. Mm-hmm. So, and then the Cole picture is just a photo shoot that Julie McMahon had. They took the picture from that. But yeah, cool. And the second cover is just a picture with some fancy background. But that is a picture that they had from Size Matters when they were with Dave Navarro when he played. They had a good picture with him, and they just cut Dave Navarro out, and then put a frame around it with a quick retro. Yeah, bye.
Bye.
So,
bye, legendary rock icon.
Yeah.
You don't
matter.
So those are the two covers. Yay.
So this is the issue, Kevin, that you kind of talked about on one of your bonuses about the Cupid babies. So here we go. Let's get into it. So we have the smallest coffin ever, sitting alone in a graveyard, and we see a hand. Oh, it's Coop's hand, because that's his ring. And he touches the coffin, and he says, "May you be lifted up on cherub wings." And then it shows the people mourning for the baby, and Coop kind of goes off on his own, and he kind of says, "I don't think I can do this anymore. That would be hard."
This is such a somber start.
It is. I mean, well, granted, like, this isn't the first time we kind of open up in a funeral setting in these comics, but the fact that it's a baby.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it happens, right? But like, I don't want to. No, it's so sad.
I was going to ask this question. Have either of you ever been to a baby's funeral before?
No.
No, I know one of my dad's coworkers, their child died like right after birth. So like they were helping the couple through it, and it was very hard on my parents, it was very hard on the couple. It was a very tough thing.
This hits home a little bit for me because I had a nephew that died at 2 months old.
Oh my gosh.
It was in 2019, I believe, 2018.
That's so recent. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. So I was like, I remember that funeral. It was open casket too. It was a very sad time, and like, you know, I didn't really get to make many memories with him. I remember holding him and him being very squeaky, and it was super cute. But you know, it's just so sad because we don't know the person he was going to be.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
In this, maybe he became a Cupid.
Yeah, and that's why I'm like, this comic gives me hope. Maybe he's a Cupid now.
Yeah. When you first talked about like how Cupids were made, it sounded very like almost grotesque to me, but actually seeing kind of how it goes down, it is actually a lot lighter, a lot happier. Like at least this baby's spirit gets to live on. So I like it.
Yeah. And my brother had another baby after that, and we would tell his brother about, you know, your brother that you didn't get to meet, and so
I just want to hug you.
Oh, thank you.
Virtual hug, everybody.
Yeah.
Maybe a little like nip slip, you know, I'll just grab it real quick.
Okay.
Mostly a hug.
My nipples are very sensitive.
You know. Pretty.
All right. Well, now that we're we flip that around to nipples, you know. So on the next page, we open up to kind of like this building floating in the sky, which we're going to assume is the headquarters of all the Cupids. And then Coop kind of like, what do we call his ability?
Beaming.
Beaming, okay.
Mm-hmm.
He hearted in. That's what I was going to say.
That's good too. You know? When hanging out at the house, we call it Cupid Burger.
Yeah, okay. Cupid Burger.
He Cupid burgered in, and there is this gorgeous woman standing there, and her name is Kama.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, "I was beginning to worry that you wouldn't make it." And he's like, "Have you not known me to ever complete an assignment?" She says, "No, you're the only working dad on the payroll. I'm not sure what to expect these days," which I thought that was really funny. And she says, "Your focus has been split lately, and she understands being married to a charmed one is going to take a toll out on things, but his Cupid duties are still important." He's like, "I understand, but can you guess why my heart might not be into this task collecting new recruits these days?" I mean, understandable. He's a family man now, and having to go and collect these babies, like, he's grieving with the parents, like understanding what they're going through. I thought this was a beautiful introduction to this.
So many feels.
Yeah.
I cry.
I think if this were like live action, I would want Jamila Jamil to play Kama. I know she's not as dark as Kama in the comic, but that's who I want.
Yeah.
I could see that. I love that.
Mm-hmm. So the next page, and they're in the Cupid's temple. This is like their up theirs for Cupids. Cupid's like Cupids. Coop. Yeah.
That was the other one. That was the other.
Yeah, that was the other Cupid, just named Cupid. Yeah.
Cupid. He had no name.
No name. But Coop comes. He's like, "We should do this," and he like rolls up his sleeve, And Kama and Coop dip their hands with their rings into this pool. And Kama says, "Child taken from your family too soon, rise up to spread the love passed on to you through sadness and share it in joy."
Aww.
So sweet. And I wasn't sure if this was a spell or not. I think she's just saying it, but it sounds very spell-like. And so they dip it into the pool. The water turns pink. Their rings are glowing. And then out pops a cherub baby.
This baby, like, he looks a little old in the face. Like, he doesn't look...
That's a common theme.
Yeah.
He kind of looks like Mr. Clean on a baby's body, you know?
Yeah.
I was a little triggered, but it's okay.
Yeah. And then Kama says, so the cherub flies away. Kama's like, "Maybe we should put you in charge of the nursery if this is so hard for you." He's like, "I can do that. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I love babies."
In my headcanon, when they touch the water, it turns into cotton candy, and the baby is born of cotton candy.
Sweet and fluffy.
That's what it looks like. Back at Phoebe's place, Coop is holding their little baby, and Coop is talking about how he hates that PJ will never know his side of the family, and he's telling Phoebe, like, he never got to know his side of the family. And Phoebe's kind of like, whatever, they died like 100 years ago, like, get over it. And then she kind of realizes, like, wait a second, just because you're like a magical, mythical creature doesn't mean like you don't have the same needs and wants that us mortals do. So they talk about, like, do you have any memories of your parents? And he's like, not really, I died as a baby. So now we kind of know that Coop went through the same process.
Yeah.
So, let's see. He wasn't allowed to go back and, like, try to find his family or see his family. So Phoebe's kind of empathizing with him. Like, I can't imagine what that would be like. And he says, I don't even know my own real name.
I love that we're diving into his story, though.
It's about time.
So much stuff that we don't know about Cupids.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And we build up all of this lore in the world, right? In the Charmed world. But we never really dive into it. And the fact that Phoebe ends up with a Cupid and we don't get to dive into it, it's always bothered me.
Yeah.
Just like, come on, we spent how many seasons on Cole? Could we not
I
get
know.
a little bit more of Coop,
Yeah.
please?
I would say out of all of Phoebe's men, I think I like Drake the most. But after Drake, I would say Coop, because he's basically like a carbon copy of Drake.
Yeah. If Billy Zane could have stayed on, I would have been perfecly happy with him too. But since he did leave, I've settled for Cole. I mean, Cole. Shit.
Not anymore.
Not Cole. Not Cole. For Coop, it's the C's, guys. For Coop, not Cole. Damn it. Slip of the tongue. So on the next page, we are at the Bay Mirror. And Phoebe's talking about, how can I look up information on people who was like at least 200 years old? And Elise is like, since this has nothing to do with your work, I say that you don't. And she's like, well, this one's personal.
What a weird thing to ask. At least Elise knows about magic now, so it's not as weird.
Yeah.
But
and she's like, who would you want to know anything about that was like lived 200 years ago? She's like, my husband.
Okay.
And Elise is like, this magic stuff's so weird to me. Well, no shit. Like, it's weird to us too. And Phoebe goes, well, I want to figure out stuff about his past, and the stupid computer keeps freezing up on her. Like, she can't get anything done. And she's like, well, maybe it's trying to tell you to get to work. Like, stop messing around, Phoebe. Like, do your
don't distract yourself. Yeah.
And then she's holding a newspaper, right? And then it goes, thwart, and it falls out of her hand. She's like, what the?
It's Ki.
Yeah, there you go.
Yay.
So I do like this evolution of Elise a lot. I kind of wish this carried over like into the show before the comics.
Yeah.
Because after a while, like, Peter Parker can only make so many excuses to Aunt May before you're like, how dumb are you, Aunt May? Like, can't you just find out so we can work together here?
Mm-hmm.
For real. I wonder how she would have taken it though. Like, in the actual lore of the series, like, would she have taken it well? Also, she's been around for a hot minute because she was around in season 1.
Yeah, right. I'm a new character. Yeah.
I loved the banter between those characters, though, Phoebe and Elise. Like, it was almost like it was a friend and a mentor, but also like a motherly figure to her.
Yeah.
And I loved seeing any little snippets of scenes of them together. So I like that they brought her back in the comics.
It is really great. And the way that she found out was very fitting because it was a very serious thing for both of them. Mm-hmm. And that's what brought them together and made it more palatable, I think, for her. So
I find it interesting that you think almost dying is a serious thing.
You know.
Does anyone actually die in this damn series, though? Like, let's be real.
Yeah. So next page is the papers on the floor. Lisa's like, "Is it haunted?" And Phoebe's just like, "Welcome to my world where strange jumpy newspapers are normal." And so she goes to grab the paper, she touches it, and she gets like a vision, a flash of a mother holding a baby crying. Oh, sad. And we can assume this is Coop. This is Coop's death. And then she's like, "What's this?" And she looks at the newspaper, and it says, "Bree Holcomb to wed Mitchell Coopersmith." And she's like, "Oh, this is our cover story." She's like, "Coopersmith, you don't think it's like Coop's family because it says Cooper in it?"
That was too
Okay.
So the next page continues the adventure. So Elise says it's worth a look, and Phoebe starts typing away. What are the odds that he's a Coopersmith? And the computer freezes up. She's a stupid computer, and she's tacking away on the keyboard. She goes, "I think I killed it." And Elise points out, "Not exactly. It's unplugged, you stupid bitch." And then we see...
I wasn't expecting that. All right, I'll be prepared next time.
Okay. And then we see Phoebe saying, "Maybe I am haunted." And behind her is standing a very, like, angry looking, like, very surly looking Cole. Like,
Cole Spirit.
I did that. Yeah, Cole
Yeah.
Cole.
I feel like
That's
this...
not cool Cole.
Not cool Cole. I feel like this image was used for some kind of meme before. It seems just like, maybe I am haunted. Everything's Cole's fault. Like, I don't know.
I'm really getting vanilla hues from this picture.
Yeah, she looks a lot like Fanoa in this one a little bit, you know.
Well, they all look like their mother, according to the show.
According to the show. There you go.
Thank you.
They all.
Every one of them.
All right, on the next page, we are in Hallowell's. And it's the three girls behind the, I guess it's the bar.
Yeah.
Which is so fitting. Like, why are they always near a bar?
Poor Paige.
She's so triggered. She's like, I can't drink any of this shit. Why are you keep opening places with alcohol? Jeez, Piper, open a candy store. Why don't you suck on my lollipops again? All right. So Piper's like, we've only been open a few months, and I'm hosting a rehearsal for a senator's daughter. And it's on such short notice, and we all know Piper's freaking out, and they just called today. And Paige is like, must have heard about the bread pudding. So tasty.
Well, I love that, because this is actually a throwback from last issue. They talk about the bread pudding in the last issue, so it's it's continuity.
Apparently, it's Piper's, like,
specialty
recipe.
Yeah.
And Phoebe's like, yeah, it must have been the bread pudding. And Piper's like onto Phoebe's shit immediately, because obviously. She's like, what did you do? And she's like, nothing, God. And Piper's like, why do I suddenly feel like I'm talking to Wyatt?
That's good.
Yeah.
Another throwback to last issue, so maybe there is more continuity from last issue than, you know.
And Phoebe goes, okay, I might have called their wedding planner and told her a pipe burst at the restaurant they'd booked and suggested they come to Hallowell's instead. And Piper's like, why would you do that? She's like, well, obviously personal gain. Because the Cooper Smiths might be related to Coop. Like really, really distant relatives. I figured I'd get them here. And Paige is like, they'd what? Notice family resemblance? Coop's parents lived over 200 years ago. Paige is like, you're so dumb. God. And Phoebe's like, you should see Coop's face when he talks about the family he never knew.
Aww.
That's cute, but I still think it's dumb as shit.
I know.
Yes,
like
Coop is in the name of Cooper Smith, so they must be related.
Right.
They went too on the nose with this storyline.
They did.
Okay.
Maybe she's been getting the feeling from her premonition. Maybe she's basing it more on the premonition, but she didn't say that. So the next page, we see Coop trying to get into the restaurant. He's like, what the? It's like not opening. He's like, is this private property? Why can't I get in here? I was like, ooh, I'm sweating. And he's like, well, I can either bang on the door or... And then you see Cole on the other side, like, holding the doors closed. He's like, go home, I'm a ghost. Get out of my house. And then he finally gets around in the back, and he comes through the kitchen. He's like, Pepper, you might want to have Leo look at that door, because it's not letting me in. It's very rude. And then he goes to Phoebe. He's like, hey, what was the emergency? And she's like, no emergency. Now, Brittany, for the next page, there was an error in the comic book.
Yes, and when I was reading it, I was like, what the fuck? Because I even looked at my husband and I was like, there's something wrong here. And then I referred back to your email and I was like, oh yeah, they did fuck this one up.
Yeah, so they actually skipped 10 altogether in their first printing. And it ended up printing page 12 twice.
Oh.
Yeah. So, like, if you look, this page here is the same as this page right here. So I read the dialogue twice, and it just didn't make sense, and my eyes were crossing, and I was like, there must be something wrong.
But they actually included the missing page in the next issue for people, and they apologized, and it was a whole rigmarole.
Oh, no.
But yeah, we got the real page now. Sean, would you like to tell us about it?
I would love to. So we see Phoebe leads Coop into the wedding party's like dinner, and she says, I thought you'd like to meet your family. He goes, my family? What did you do, Phoebe? This seems to be a common question throughout this comic. What did you do? She says, I had a premonition. And she says, I put 2 and 2 together, and I work fast, don't I? And he goes, I shouldn't be here. And he tries to leave. And she's like, they're not going to recognize you. Like, your whole family died, like, forever ago anyway. So just enjoy, like, seeing them. And she's trying to push him back in, but she kind of pushes him right into the groom, who says, can I get someone to help bring the cake in from the car? My fiance will be suspicious if the best man and I suddenly disappear at the same time. And Phoebe says, my husband can help.
Right.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. Like, what's the history between the husband and the best man? Like, have they been sleeping together?
Winky face.
I don't know if you guys see this either, but like when all of these people are sitting at the table, the woman in like the teal dress in the lower right-hand corner, does she not like look like she could be a Piper drawing with short hair?
Oh, yeah.
Like, that looks more like Piper than some of these other drawings.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Coop goes out and helps this guy get this cake out of his car. And he's like, I should warn you, it's not a pretty damn cake. It's a family tradition. And so they're looking at this cake, and it looks like literal shit. And it says, we have a cake designed like the old Cooper Smith mine. All the major family events has one. Bree axed the idea of having it at the wedding, which I don't fucking blame her.
Right.
Who would want this ugly ass thing at a wedding? And he said, so I had it made for tonight as a surprise. And this, just as a visual for the listeners, it's a 2-tiered cake with chocolate kind of dripping down with these rock formations, a random, what I think is either a horse or a donkey, cracks going into the cake. There's a hole cut out, and on the top it just says "mine."
It's Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, pretty much.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It looks like literal birds on the cake, but like it's horrible looking. And Coop goes, "Well, it's certainly surprising." And the guy, the groom, I should say, he's like, "How can I marry someone who doesn't appreciate our family traditions?" And he's like, "I get that it's an ugly cake. Well, you would have to be blind not to think that." And Coop goes, "It is that." And the groom is like, "But if she can't respect my traditions, how will we survive the marriage?" And Coop is going into Cupid mode, and he puts his hand on his shoulder and says, "A cake is not a marriage. Neither is a wedding. At the end of the day, all that matters is how you and Bree feel about each other. This is just a normal attack of cold feet. Just remember all the things you've experienced together and let those feelings guide you." Which I thought was sweet advice.
Gasp. And this actually brings us to our power play moment.
Yay!
Power play.
So today's power play is the power of suggestion. And suggestion is the ability to project an inner voice to others, implanting incredibly strong suggestions into their minds, subtly bending them to one's will. Suggestion is neutral. It can be used for bad or good. While the forces of good will seek to help others with their suggestions, evil will try to manipulate others for selfish reasons or use it to hurt them in some way. Suggestion also appears to be a natural part of the invisible form of astral projection. So usually if someone is astral projecting or has astral form, they can have this influence. It allows users to be invisible and make a telepathic connection with someone, often allowing them to subliminally influence another being by implanting thoughts. Cupids in particular have a Cupid ring, which allows them to slip into people's hearts and minds to implant the thoughts. And the ring is mainly used to implant feelings of love into a person's mind, but in the wrong hands can be used to suggest reasons to hate, like Drazi. It is implied that it can be also used to make other people recall past memories, as we see in Generation Hex with Phoebe. A common practice among Cupids is to first slow down time when making love connections and then project an inner voice. But here in the comic, he's just like talking to him like he's right there. So he didn't slow down time. He's aware of what he's being told. So it's a little bit different. But yeah, there you go. Suggestion.
Do you think the way that he uses his powers is really, like in the comics, is really changed because he's kind of living more life as like a mortal?
Maybe.
He's married. So he's like, I don't have to slip between the heartbeats. Like I can just be here and present and just touch you.
Yeah, and sometimes before when they don't know of you, it's like a subliminal thing because it'd be weird if like a stranger started talking to you about love, you know. But if you are aware of it, sometimes I think it can be more powerful when you hear the words out loud, when it's coming from someone that's maybe he is a stranger, but someone that you have had some kind of time with. So
it was a cute moment.
Yeah. So the next page is they bring the cake in, and. It says, when you didn't want this at the wedding, I figured it would make an appearance at the rehearsal dinner. I mean, this is essentially a groom's cake because a lot of weddings have like the wedding cake and then the groom's cake. And so that's what this is. It's like, you get two cakes, sure. And then the bride's like, Bree, she's like, well, yeah, this is horrible. It's the ugliest thing I've ever seen, but I love it because you love it. Oh, how sweet. And they hug, and Coop gives a really creepy winky face, and it's like, go get her, Tiger.
The guy gives it right back.
You know my name when you fuck her.
Right.
He's like, what was your name again? So I can just imagine it.
Yeah. And then we see the lady on the side. She's like, how could you bring that disgusting cake in here? Bad enough I had to have it at my wedding.
Now, how much am I going to get judged if I say the 5-year-old in me loves this cake? Like, it's not terrible to me.
I mean, a kid would have a ball with that for sure.
Right, but like, I don't blame her for not wanting it at a wedding.
Yeah. No, I agree with
there's
that.
a difference. Like, there's a theme, right? If your theme was mine and dirt, go for it. I think that was what she was going for. So
I like how Brittany's like politely saying, "If you're disgusting and you like to eat dirt."
No, Sean, you can live out your dirty dreams.
Yeah, I will. I will, Brittany.
Right.
Cake.
So we see Phoebe and Coop are at home, and they're reminiscing on the party last night. And Phoebe goes like, "You have to admit, my foot looks very small right here, and it's odd. But that party was really good last night, wasn't it?"
Okay, serious question, Sean. I feel like you always notice the things about feet. So do you have a foot fetish then?
I actually don't. I don't know why I always notice feet. I actually think feet are gross.
Feet. I do too. I hate feet. I feel like your eyes are just like, oh, God, them damn feet.
I know. It's like, in my face. Get out of here.
What's funny too is I just noticed her tiny foot right now, so I don't know why like it sprung out at me.
I feel
very
like
valid question.
A drinking game, like through the podcast.
Right.
So they're talking about last night and how fun the party was, and Coop says, "Well, getting to meet those people, it was pretty special seeing like my relatives, even if they don't know who I am." And then Cole, look what you've done to me. Cole.
It's not just me.
It's teenage. Cole creepily sneaks in and like touches Phoebe's hair like the Grudge style.
So pretty.
The panel they don't show is him smelling his hand afterwards.
God. He's like, my precious.
And as that's happening, Phoebe's kind of like, what's the big deal? It's not the end of the world. And then she gets a premonition of like the bride like dramatically running away. And like, I guess the groom is falling over for reasons. It's very dramatic.
Yeah, he's getting punched. Somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he is getting
Weird.
punched. You're right.
Yeah.
I noticed the small foot, but I didn't notice the punch.
It's like the Bay Mirror brawl all over again.
Yeah.
That was
So then Phoebe's kind of like, do you feel like going to a wedding?
So they're going to the church, and Coop is like, Phoebe, this is a serious problem. And they're like, so what's the plan? We just show up like stalkers? And Paige is like, we should try a glamour. And Phoebe's like, if it's like my premonition right now, all hell is breaking loose. Like, it's a shit show in there. Nobody's going to notice us. And Coop is like, I'm so sorry. I think whatever's affecting them is affecting me. And he's like, we better hurry, and starts to go into the building. And Cole's like sitting there, like pushing his ass out the door. And he's like, oof, and falls over. And Phoebe's like, Coop!
And what they don't show is Cole smelling his hands afterwards.
I almost made this church a You Look Familiar moment because it kind of looks like the one from I've Got You Under My Skin, where she's like, I'm good. But then I did a side by side and looked at it, and they are quite different. So, but they're similar.
Yeah, and maybe just like the very large doors.
Yeah.
I wish they would have done the same church, though.
I know.
Another callback.
Cool. But did you both notice their feet?
So the next page, Coop is on the floor, and Phoebe comes to his side, and her little sandally toes are out. Ooh. And she's like, what happened? Can't Cupids enter a church? It's like, of course they can, bitch. Stupid bitch. She's like, I'm getting in there. And he's like, yeah. Phoebe's like, you're doing a lousy job of getting in this church, Coop. And Cole's there, like, just holding him back. Like, he's like, let me at it. Let me at it. And then, because Cole is pushing Coop back, Phoebe's kind of being pushed back, too. She's like, oh, no, is it spreading to me? Oh, no. And then, here come the power of three sisters. They're like, we can do it. Boom, 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 boom. And they just rush to the door. And then Coop's about to follow them, but it gets the door slammed in his face. He's like, oh, man.
So funny.
Yeah.
So next up, we see the sisters are now in the church with Cole like creepily just watching them talk, and Paige says this is making less and less sense, and Piper says par for the course with us, and Phoebe says we need to split up and take on the family one by one. I've got the groom. She's so excited by that. And then we see the groom's parents kind of like fighting. The dad's like, I can't believe you care so much about the stupid cake. And she says, I can't believe that you want to ruin our son's wedding with that stupid cake. And then Paige says, we'll start with them. And then I guess like walking off in a dramatic fashion is common in this book because Phoebe like dramatically throws up her arms to walk like Coop did. And everybody splits up to go after their charges.
All of them are walking into like.
But then you just see Coop in the little window being like, but what about
you? Hysterical.
Excuse me.
Tap, tap, tap.
So on the next page, we cut back outside and Coop's like, I just can't stand here and do nothing. Like, I got to do something. And he's like, there has to be another way in. So he goes to the side of the church, goes to this gate. And then Kama shows up and she says, I wouldn't do that if I were you. Coop's like, Kama? Why won't you let me go to this church and fix this? Something's fucked up. Like, I gotta go help. She's like, you mean the problem you created? First of all, I'm not the one stopping you, but I'm glad someone is. Ooh. Like, that was... So, does she see Cole?
I don't think so. But she's like, whoever it is.
Yeah, something is stopping him, so I guess that's good.
I'll take it.
Also, can we talk about like her dress? I know that I didn't talk about this when we first saw her, but I love the colors in her dress. It's almost like a shifting color, like sequiny. It doesn't have sequins, but you know, like the color shifts.
It's like iridescent for Walt Disney World's 50th anniversary.
Yes,
Stop
Disney.
It.
I think that the rendering of her dress is just beautiful.
Yeah.
It's got me dripping with excitement. If you know the reference, you know the reference. For the anniversary at Disneyland, they put out the like platinum ears, and it has this dripping platinum on it that looks like cum. And they put in the description that Minnie is dripping with excitement.
You can hear the whole story on Marvelous Galaxy of Disney. Yeah.
Oh my god. That's triggering.
Yeah.
It got removed rather quickly.
I bet. Listen, I know that there's Disney adults. I'm one of them, but that doesn't mean that like we need to slide in dripping Minnie. Like,
I like that you said slide in. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Coop and Kama walk into the courtyard, and Kama's like, I was wondering what would happen if I assigned you to recruit a new baby, and now that you have a baby of your own. And then she's like, yeah, family love is important, Coop, but you do have responsibilities to others. And then he's like, you couldn't have told me this earlier or like given me a write-up or something. Why are you getting me into this now? She's like, you know what, Cupid powers can be dangerous, so you know they can easily twist into hate if you lose focus on love. He's like, but I've got love. It's multiplying.
And I'm losing control.
And then Kama's just like, you better hope that the Charmers can undo what was done, since your powers shouldn't be used by anyone in your family. So apparently he's not supposed to use them on his family. And that's why they're supposed to be separated.
Oh.
And he's like, but what about if it's someone not in my family yet? Ooh.
Can we just talk about the bride that's running out? Like, this is not a natural position to be running out of a door. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's hunched over, like probably running / sprinting out the door.
Yeah.
Like,
she's gonna hit a wall.
Yeah, or I would have tripped and fallen in my
on
heels
the stairs?
on my face. So interesting.
Yeah. So speaking of interesting, I just found a little tidbit I'd like to share with the class.
Okay.
I was very curious about this name Kama, and I found on Wikipedia, Kama in the Hindu, Buddhist, Jain, and Sikh literature means desire, wish, longing.
Oh.
So it's very fitting for her.
I would like to know if she's like Well, obviously she's able to ride up Coop, right?
Yeah.
But is she like a higher goddess then?
Seems like
Something.
Yeah.
Come on, chameleon.
That explains everything.
That's the only definition we need.
Yeah, there you go.
But again, I feel like there's so much lore around like the Cupids and all of that we don't know. Like, who is this comma lady?
Mhm.
Like, how does she rank?
Yeah, I want to know more about that
Yeah, I'm curious about this like power thing. Like, why can't you use it on their family? And I think maybe it's just for personal interest, because your family is always going to be personal interest, and that just makes it more susceptible to be twisted.
Yeah.
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 So next up, we see Coop outside with the bride, and he says, "No bride should cry on her wedding day." And she's like, "At this rate, I don't think there's gonna be a wedding." And then Coop sits down with her, and he's like, "Look, Bree, that's weird. That's my sister's fiance's name." He's like, "I don't really know you. I don't know anything about you. I hate your dress. I don't approve of how you run, but I do know a thing or two about love." And he says, "Mitchell and his family are going through something right now. You can either run away from it or confront it. I understand that it doesn't make sense that it came out of the blue, but problems do that sometimes. Part of marriage is dealing with that together. If you really love him, you can get through it." And she says, "But how?" And he says, "By me touching you with my ring and putting a spell on you." And he says, "Just focus on the good times."
I'm about to show
Tom
you.
is standing there like, maybe I'll give him an A. He handled that well.
Yes. Promotion. You get it, bride to be, Bree.
Yeah. So then we cut to Phoebe trying to help the groom, and he's like freaking out with his hands up in the air, being all dramatic. He's like, "It's our wedding day. Why is my family trying to ruin everything? Why doesn't Bree understand?" And Phoebe's like, "I can feel your love," because she's an empath.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, "You just have to push past the weird little blip." And the Bree's like peeking around the corner. And she's like, "I know it's bad luck to see the bride." And Phoebe goes, and I could totally see this like scene happening. She's like, "Luck schmuck, things can't get any worse," and like drags her ass into the room.
I love that.
And she's like, "If you two love each other, don't worry about everyone else. Just focus on that love." And she's like, Bree's like, "I do love you, Mitchell." And Mitchell's like, oh wait, she's like, "More than any stupid cake or your parents fighting all night or your brother hitting on my mom."
That's weird.
Like, what?
That's not a normal problem.
Yeah, I really wish they would have like put that, like maybe not the interaction of like him saying something, but like him, the brother, like flirting with an older lady in the corner where we could see it somewhere. But this one was like, yeah, that was weird. And Bree's like, "I do want to marry you." And Mitchell's like, "And I want to marry you too." And then it cuts to them like kissing at the wedding. You know, I guess they went through with the marriage.
Mm-hmm. So then we cut to the park. A beautiful sunshiny day. Ducks are swimming in the lake pondy thing. We see Coop and Phoebe having a nice day with PJ. Was it a balloon? Oh, it's a ladybug. What is that?
Yeah, it's a ladybug, like little stuffed animal. She yeets it.
Oh, because she drops it. Okay, because I thought it was like a balloon. Like she has something on a cord, but it flies off of her stroller.
Yeah, PJ throws it. She throws it.
Oh, she
like this ladybug.
I hate ladybugs. Why?
And Phoebe's like, "You have to like it. You have to take it back."
Right. It's like, "I nicknamed you Ladybug for a reason." But she tells Coop, she's like, "Sorry that your reuniting with your family was weird." And he's like, "Nothing to be sorry about. It was a good reminder of the power of love. That's the power of love." And then Phoebe grabs the ladybug stuffed animal. She's like, "Here you go, PJ. I know you hate this, but you have to love it." Oh yeah, so like maybe you want to reconnect with your family later, but not use your powers on them, because no, that's not really the right thing to do. And then Coop's like, "Those people are strangers to me. Even if I did get to know them, I can't really tell them who I am or what I do because I'm magical." And then Yeah, say magique.
Magique.
And then Coop just says, "You and PJ are all the family I need. I
Aw.
love you." Oh, and then he goes, "And Piper and Paige, Leo, Henry, the kids, various relations, both living and dead." All those people too.
That's very Phoebe also.
Don't forget.
Phoebe's like, there's all these fuckers too. Don't
Yeah.
forget.
Yeah. Like, even the dead ones. You have to love the dead ones.
Yeah.
They come back. Nobody actually dies in the family.
You never know when you might see them.
Yep.
So you gotta say hey. And he's like, "Yeah, that's more than enough people in my life. I don't need another family. You're good." too stressed that way. And then Cole's just like, I'm just looking to stare at them longingly.
Awkwardly.
Yeah.
So as Cole's staring at them, we have Patty comes down. So Patty says, stalking Phoebe, it's not helping you find Prue. Like, you're just kind of weird right now. He's like, no, bitch. See, the thing is, Coop was obsessed with his family, and it would have driven them to destruction. So, like, I'm protecting them or whatever. And Patty's like, that's not your responsibility. Leave them alone. They have to make their own mistakes. And then Coop says, I can't believe she replaced me with a Cupid. And Patty's like, get the fuck over it. Like, it took her a while to get over you. She's happy. At least his name starts with C-O. Like,
He's basically you, but the complete opposite.
And then we get this, like, dramatic last line where Patty says, if you want the Warren witches to help convince the elders that you can move on, you need to stop obsessing with Phoebe and get back to work finding Prue.
Yeah.
I love how this ties together because I remember we kind of had issues with, like, what does Patty and Penny have to do with getting his redemption, but it's kind of like they're so powerful as the Warren line that they're gonna, like, go to bat for him. So I like this explanation.
So yeah, it makes sense that it's not their power, but they just have, some clout.
They know people.
I know people who know people. Yeah.
They are the people.
Yeah. We the people. I gotta say though, I think it is kind of funny that because the whole reason when Cole came back for the 7-Year Witch, he came back so that Phoebe would find love again. He was all gung ho with her be with Drake, but now he's like, I can't believe she replaced me with a Cupid.
See, that's why I feel like the Cole actions in this comic book specifically is so not canon.
Yeah.
Because he fought hard to try to make her want to love again.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's just in here just being
a Cupid who's all about love, too.
Yeah. And he's being a little jealous bitch.
Yeah.
Like, I get it, but no. Like, you were supposed to have moved past
this. Mm-hmm.
It triggered me a little bit.
So this surprises me to say this, but I'm actually going to go to bat for Cole because I don't think he's, like, jealous. I think he's just reminiscing. Like, I think he's happy she moved on, but I think he's more like, but with him, like, I think it's more just kind of like
maybe
she deserves better.
Yeah, so maybe it's not the guy. Maybe it's not that he's a Cupid. It's just that he's kind of like he's a generic like pretty boy. I don't know. Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
But he's like being so fucking creepy and touching her hair and probably sniffing it. He hasn't like moved past it, and I thought that as a character, he had kind of accepted that was his fate to not be with Phoebe. That, like, you can still love somebody and hope the best for them, but you don't like interfere and creepily like stand outside of her door being like, love me.
Yeah, because I would think he would be happy knowing that she's happy.
Yeah.
And that's the vibe that I got when he left. And that's when Piper was like, I hope this doesn't apply to get Phoebe back, because I resented that too in that comic. I'm like, but here it's kind of back to the old ways in a lot of ways. But
I feel like
I get both sides.
He's regressed a little bit as a character.
Yeah.
And here's my thing with Cole. I'll get into it.
Yeah.
So I don't dislike Cole as a character. I love Julian as an actor. I feel like he brought a lot to this character. We saw a lot of faces of Cole. But the thing is, and I get a lot of hate for this, I don't think that Cole and Phoebe would have been in game, regardless of whether or not he would have become the source. I know that he didn't want to become the source. Like, that was obviously forced upon him. But even if that hadn't happened, he would have been mortal. He had been a demon for 100+ years. And at that point, like, he was so in the magical game. You know, at the beginning of season 4, he was essentially the third charmed one.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm going to fight with you guys. I'm going to be good. I'm going to protect the woman that I love and her family and step in. Once he lost his powers, he felt useless. And he didn't know how to be immortal. And we see that. And I don't know that, like, maybe if we'd given him more time, but I feel like he wouldn't have found his purpose as a mortal.
No.
And that would have totally affected his relationship with Phoebe, because she's in the game. She's, you know, a witch. She's fighting, and he couldn't protect her or help her with things that he's been doing for the last, you know, 2 years at that point. That it really just, I don't think that they would have ended up in game, regardless if he would have been evil or not.
And we talked about that a little bit on some of the past episodes you were on too. And I feel like, yeah, he's always going to be on that search to be the provider, to be the protector, to be the powerful one, because that's all he's ever known. He wants to be in control. And because of that search, because of that thing about him, he's always going to end up in a tragic place.
Right.
So
I hear what both of you are saying about Cole, and I think you're disgusting for saying it. I actually completely agree. I never disliked Cole as a character, but I disliked him, just like you said, Brittany, with Phoebe. They don't match up, and like they show us that in the series multiple times. So
yeah,
I'm right there with you.
Yeah. All right. Well, we finished the episode, or finished the issue. What are So what are your overall thoughts about this issue?
So for me, there's some stuff I really like about it and some stuff I don't. We talked about how it shows Coop's backstory. I love that. I love getting more about Coop. I actually do like this kind of Cole trying to protect Phoebe, because, I mean, you don't lose that love you had for someone, but I just feel like it's, I don't know, at least he used his hand and not his penis, Brittany.
That could have just not been shown in these stills. Okay? You don't know, like, he's around her all the time. He could have been floating above her bed while she's sleeping. Just, you know?
What could have strengthened it a little is, like, maybe seeing in the beginning or something what the future would have been like had a Coop explored looking into his family. So that way we would have seen, like, you know, it would have been a lot worse if I didn't stop this. But the way it's written, it does make Cole a little creepy, and it does kind of, it confused me that Coop, like, uses power on his family, and that's why all the bad was happening. I didn't really get that the first time around as much.
Yeah. All right. I do appreciate the backstory about Coop and Cupids in general, because there's a sadness about it, but there's also, like, sort of a beautiful optimism in it too. Like, the souls of dead babies use whatever love that was felt for them in their short life, and the grief that stems from that love to inspire love in others. Like, that's really beautiful. And it is so nice to see some personality from Coop, because he's not someone who just isn't like a standard emotionalist hot guy that we kind of got in the series. Now his character has nuance, personal doubt, tragedy. It's all in there now, and I like that. I appreciate that. So
I really think that, and I love, you know, going into Coop's story as well. I think that that's really what we missed in the series, is more Coop. And that's the reason why people have such a problem with them being in game, is because, you know, we fell in love with Cole as a character over multiple seasons, and he kept fucking coming back because that fucker doesn't die, and he doesn't die in the comic books either. Nobody dies. But if we would have had even just like a full season of them being in a relationship together, we would have, as, you know, viewers, really loved the love story between them. But it was so rushed because it was the end of the show.
Right. So and Henry was rushed too, but they got more out of that relationship for some reason on screen time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they have a little bit more time, obviously, than Coop did, but still.
Right. And I don't know. I feel like this helps me as a fan dive more into the Coop. And I mean, I was good with them being in game because I understood that. But that brings so much more life to his character, and seeing them interact, especially with their children in these comics, it's just a beautiful story. So I'm glad that we finally got some more backstory on him.
Yeah, I've been loving the way Coop is written in these comics so far.
Yeah.
And Coop's hot.
I mean, there's actually Victor Webster. There you go. Yeah. All right. So next is put that in my canonical hat.
Canonical.
So do we have anything for canonical or incorrect lore? I know you, Brittany, you did say that you didn't think Cole writing was canon.
Yeah, I would put that in as my canon part of this entire issue. I also don't like Mr. Clean Baby, but that's just me.
I have one thing. It goes back to that power, I think, because it says that Cupid's powers can turn to hate, and the thing is, like in Heartbreak City, when that happened, that Cupid was like on the verge of death. He was like, "I can't live anymore, the pain." Oh, and here Coop wasn't feeling anything. If it was, I mean, maybe because it wasn't enough. Maybe the one in Heartbreak City had like multiple couples breaking up, and that's what was causing him to die. But Coop didn't seem to have any problem with Bree and Mitchell being torn apart.
Yeah, I can see that.
I just thought of something.
What?
I have a problem with this rule of like Cupids not being able to use their power on their family.
Yeah.
Because take Coop, for example. He died, did you say 100 or 200 years ago?
Like 2.
Over 200, yeah.
200. Okay, so his family, if you think about it, that tree's been spreading and spreading, more and more people. So as a Cupid, if you can't sense who your family is or don't know who your family is, how do you know if you're using your power on them or not? So
right.
I feel like we see
there you
a
go.
lot more issues with this.
Plot hole.
That's a good one. I like that.
I added something.
Maybe it isn't the family per se. Maybe it's just personal interest, because if you know they're the family. So if you don't know, I guess it'd be okay.
Okay, that makes sense. I like that.
Yeah.
We're just making this up as we go. Unfortunately, we were not the writers.
Right. Oh, speaking of that, I sent Paul, emailed him the "You Look Familiars" I made so far. And he says, "Wow, you are really observant." And he said the only one he could take credit for was the vault doors in the upstairs, because he actually sent a reference to the artist. But he said all the other references were the artist just doing their own research. So I got that little tidbit from him, which was cool.
And I like that, just from an artist perspective, that they took the time to dive into it. Mm-hmm. Especially when we know that, like, maybe not all of the people who worked on this series were fans of the show. Right. They took time to be like, well, this would be appreciated if I did this, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Yeah.
They binged the series, I hope.
I hope. Next is tips for future white letters.
Oh, we're really just messengers? Guides? Think of us as guardian angels for good witches.
Tips for future white letters.
I was out being a force of good in the universe.
Who has a moral of the story?
Don't meddle in your family's love life.
Oh, that's a good one. For me, I think the recurring theme for like Kama, for Cole, and for Coop is letting the past be the past and letting people make their own mistakes.
That's
like that.
Very true too. Mine is Lost provides clear, matter-of-fact proof that love exists. So even though times are trying and horrible when you lose someone, when there's grief, knowing that we feel still shows that without a doubt, human decency, compassion, and companionship are still thriving in the world, which sometimes is hard to find and come by in today's time. So it's nice that we do have proof that's still out there.
I like it.
Next is onomatopoeia. So most effective sound word.
I would say this, I mean, like, maybe not the actual word, but the context in which it was used in is the door slamming in Coop's face.
Okay.
For me, I think my favorite is thap, just because it's such like a bitchy sound for a bitchy action. Like she's getting the newspaper slammed out of her hand.
Thap! Thap! Bitch went down. Yeah.
It's also like a gay slap. Like, it's a slap with...
it's very Simon Marks with his glove. I do all set. I'm gonna say tack tack tack. Mostly because I'm reminded of a musical, Dear Evan Hansen, where he's like tap tap tapping on the glass, and so because everything's with a musical with me, but I like it.
I think I would like to live in your brain for a couple hours just to see how you experience things.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a completely different experience for the rest of us.
MVP, most valuable panel.
Ooh. I feel like for me it'd have to be in the beginning where they're talking about how Coop's mind has been split and he's like, can you blame me? Like, you're making me take dead babies and I'm a family man. Like, that to me is just like such a powerful moment. Like, you really get into the mindset of him as well as the purpose behind what he's doing.
Right.
So I thought that was a good part.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked this image of, it shows the groom and it's like him looking down sad and you see Coop's hand with the ring like glowing. I really like it because it kind of just like tells us what's going on in this whole story without saying much. So I don't know. I just think it's a powerful image.
Yeah. I'm going to say the first page when Coop is looking at his ring, just saying, I don't think I can do this anymore. Because that tells us that there's more to Coop than meets the eye. It tells us he's having doubts, and it's the whole motivation for the whole issue. So
I will say that without this damn ring, there is no way that I would have known that was Coop.
Yeah.
It looks nothing like
there are a lot of drawings where I'm like, I know, I don't see it.
Yep.
So. All right. Sexiest drawing.
I feel like Kama is the sexiest character in this.
She is. Do you have a favorite drawing of her?
In the beginning, when we first kind of see her standing there, because it's almost like a full body shot minus her feet, because Sean, no feet. But you see her, she's got these nice curves, this beautiful gown, her beautiful skin. I think she's a beautiful character.
Yeah, she's great.
I actually like that same image, but more so Coop's feet in that image. No, just kidding.
He has shoes on. You
can see his toes. Then I guess I'll go with Kama in that image.
He is glow burgering.
He is.
He is. I think with Kama too, like her dress, the way it's cut in that like asymmetrical cut to show off more of the titty boob, that's sexy. And the way that the dress like rides up to show like everything.
Yeah,
like,
that's
in the middle,
true.
It's not drapey, it's just like static.
It's very
like,
form fitting.
I love that.
But there wasn't a whole lot of moments in this thing where they're like over sexualizing the characters. And I really like, as a woman, I really appreciate that because not all the things has to be tits and ass. You know, like I want to know about the story. Granted, I can appreciate tits and ass, but I don't need to be sexualized 24/7. You know?
Yeah, I feel you. I'm going to pick for sexiest drawing the two men winky facing at each other. What does the winky face even really mean? What kind of subtext is there?
They're hooking up later.
He's moving on from the best man.
I know. Meet me at the golf course later. I know.
We'll fill a few holes.
All right, now our next thing is the issue ranking. So, Magically Delicious, Pretty Witchin', A Sorcerer's Apprentice, Disenchanting, or Vanquishable.
I think I would go with Pretty Witchin'. I think that the storyline, as far as getting background on Coop, kind of learning more about the Cupid world and kind of what they stand for and what the processes is, was great. I feel like there could have been a little bit more in the story development on, you know, him impacting his family and that kind of stuff. And, you know, the Cole thing kind of bothered me, but I still thought it was really good.
Okay.
Yeah. For everything I said before, I'm going to give it Sorcerer's Apprentice, so right in the middle. And I think my biggest complaint would be, I think this should have been like 2 or 3 comics to really explore the power, like Brittany said, and to really get into Cole a little bit more, or Coop a little bit more.
I'm going to say pretty witching as well, because I do appreciate all the sentiment that's in there. I love learning about Coop. There's something about it though that did make me feel weird and not quite. It just was a little off with it, and I don't know what it was. Maybe it was just the whole wedding thing I didn't care about. But so I'm going to give it a pretty witching too. There's just a little thing that I perturbed me, but I liked it overall.
Would you say this was the wedding from hell?
I don't know that wedding this wedding I could have handled more than the wedding from hell.
Yeah. So now I have P is for Paul, our question for next week.
Piper. You mean it's just you and Prue, huh?
Phoebe? Phoebe, you there?
And a big hello to you too, Penny.
Come on, Patty. The rest is up to them.
Paige. My name is Paige.
Another P, imagine that.
P is for Paul.
So the question is a little bit heavy. If you never knew your family and your family never knew you, would you still seek them out?
Knowing myself, I would seek out my family not for sentimental reasons. Like, I wouldn't want to meet them, I think, but I'd want to know, like, where I came from. Like I already am like that. I want to know my past lives. I want to know my old family, but I don't care about meeting them per se.
I think that's just human nature, just generally. I mean, even if you look at like adopted children or, children conceived of like, sperm or egg donors, like they want to know like kind of where they come from, even if they're not emotional connection, just like what the history is, behind them. I would say I would want to know some of my family, not all of them. Just I don't get along with my mom. We'll just put it that way. So I wouldn't want to get to know her, but like I have very close family when it comes to like my dad and my sister and my grandma. So I would want to know them, but I guess if I hadn't known them before, I wouldn't know that I had that connection with them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'd probably be curious to want to know them.
Yeah, and I'm usually very an emotional kind of person. I like that sensitivity and that the heartstrings thing. So I would be like, yes, I want to know who they are. I want to form a bond. I would like to see if there is some kind of connection that we can bond over.
Now, to answer your question in real life, I do have a friend who was adopted, who didn't know her family, and as an adult, she was able to track them down. And she came back from meeting them out of state, and she was like, "I wish I never met them. They're terrible people."
Yeah,
so
and that's the danger. Yeah,
yeah, it works out that way sometimes. But I mean, you would either live your life not knowing, and then have that in the back of your head, like I want to know, or just get it over with,
right?
And now you know, so you don't have to question it anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Sean, tell us what's next.
Cool, and I love this image. It's very like almost famous to me of Paige holding the glasses on her face. The issue is number 15, where there's smoke. There's a fire starter, a twisted fire starter. Trouble comes knocking on Paige's front door when a mysterious fire nearly burns down her house. The nature of the attack suggests a fire starter, a twisted fire starter, but the real answer might not be that simple. Are the charmed ones about to face another threat from the past, or is the culprit a more recent addition to their lives? A secret that Piper has been keeping might hold the answer to more than just Paige's question, or it could lead to a whole new set of problems instead. Que interessant.
Oh. Maybe Tyler will come back.
That's what my guess is. Like, I think it's obviously Tyler, but then the secret that Paige has, I'm like, what the fuck? What's going on, Paige?
Dun dun dun.
I know. I'm excited. It'll be good.
Yeah.
All right. So that's it. Brittany, tell people where they can find you, and you're amazing.
Well, you can follow me on Instagram at charmed_collector_1329. And on there you'll find like me posting about my personal collection. I post, where I've found certain things or things that I've made. I also have links in my bio to help people with products that can be bought.
Yes.
That's the problem with us collectors.
Mm-hmm.
Some things, especially for Kevin and myself, we've had for a long time. They've either been discontinued, or the shops have shut down, or it was like a one-of-a-kind item, or
you made it yourself, and you can't make it for everybody,
No,
Yeah.
So as much as I would like to share everything, it's just not possible. So you can follow me on Instagram or on TikTok with the same name, Charmed Collector 1329, and I post videos about. Here lately, it's mainly just a bit about my Charmed dollhouse and making the miniatures and that kind of stuff. But if you're interested, go follow that.
Yay. Sean, where can they find you?
Well, you can find me on the aforementioned in this episode, The Marvelous Galaxy of Disney. We're actually coming back this week. There's a new episode out already. You can find me on Once Upon a Cult, which is coming back this month also. Find me on Instagram under Sean.Porrett. That's Porrett, with links to all of the podcasts and the book, Witches Brew, which is about witches, which I think everybody listening to this likes witches.
Woo-hoo. Yeah, and you can find Sean and I also on Solving for X, covering the X-Men series. We're in the Dark Phoenix saga now, with lots of fun guests. Yes. And you can follow this podcast at Words of the Witches all over the place, mostly Instagram. Words of Witches if you're on Twitter. And you can find my personal page, KGZ87, on Instagram. So, yeah. Yay. We'll see you next week, Spellworders. Thanks for listening. Goodbye. I like your feet. Your destiny still awaits with those feet, yes.